to have an opportunity to bid our outgoing trustee, Trustee Debbie Crandall, the best of luck as she exits the board, and to thank her for her service. And I know that she's been given a couple of small boxes, and she's got her gavel that she gets to take with her that she used during her presidency. And there's also a soundboard that comes with that, and a little certificate and a plaque that commemorates her service for 2 terms on the board. And 2 terms actually is only 8 years, but she served 9 years. If you may recall, the board actually moved the election date 1 year. And so the trustees that were in place at that time served 1 additional year. So she's actually served 2 terms, but 9 years. And I'll go ahead and open this up for the trustees in just a moment. But as superintendent, I just simply want to express our deep gratitude on behalf of the entire administrative team. Debbie, you've been phenomenal. Your 9 years here on the board is really perhaps only shadowed by your amazing service to all the students and the staff in this district. As a site council member, being on PTAs and being on the sober grad nights, your presence was ubiquitous, and it's amazing that your fingerprints are on so many activities that happen for our students, and I think that was mirrored in the way that you worked on the board for our students. It was student-centered, very compassionate, but you always had such an amazing sense of balance in our discussions and in your decisions. And I think everyone was very confident that when you were making your opinion known, it was known on behalf of all of our students. And we're going to miss you so much. I'm going to miss your leadership and your wisdom, and just wishing you the very, very best in everything that you choose to do. And I hope that you have an opportunity to come visit us and maybe sit in a board meeting sometime and say hello for us. So on behalf of the staff and the administration, thank you so much for your service.
Thank you so much, Ralph. I really appreciate it.
Yes, of course. So I'd like to go ahead and open it up to the trustees if you'd like to say a few words. And so Trustee Paff, you're the next one up, if you'd like.
I would. Debbie and I go back, I believe, to a point in time where our children who are now 24 were entering preschool. I want to say that's where I met Ms. Crandall, and it has been an honor and a pleasure to work alongside you with the board. And when you stepped in 2011, I think that was I was sitting in the audience through those years, for many years actually, starting about 2008, and realized, hey, this is someone who's really taking this beyond the point of let me espouse my opinion, but let me try and have that responsibility. And really, I was incredibly impressed at that point in time. And thank you so very much. Thank you for your leadership over this last year, which has been a troubling and difficult year in so many ways. And I appreciate you taking that role on. And I really, congratulations, 9 years. It's been my pleasure. And I think right now what I'm thinking is, and she gets to go watch a football game when this is done tonight.
Yeah, go Chargers.
That's
Debbie,
right.
thank you.
Thank you, John.
Trustee Brian Swanson, is there anything you'd like to say?
Yes, yeah. Debbie, you are remarkable. You've been a guiding light, you've been a friend, you've been a trustee, you have been one who always puts the students first. You are such a tremendous role model, and you've been there for me throughout all of this. Some hard years and hard decisions. And I just want to thank you for what you've done for me and what you've done for the district and what you've done for the whole community, because you've gone so far above and beyond. And if I could bring just a sliver of that to what we do here, that would be tremendous. So thank you again. I'm going to miss you tremendously. You've always been there at the drop of a hat. A late night text, hey, do you have a second? Of course you have a second. And you've always given more than that. So thank you for everything that you've brought. I'm really going to miss you.
Thank you, Brian.
Incoming trustee Carolyn Swanson, would you like to say a few words? Well, you're welcome to.
Thank you, Dr. Porras. Trustee Crandall, President Crandall, I remember the first time I ever went to a school board meeting. It was 4 years ago, and I saw you and Christy Dawson up there on the dais, and seeing you, hearing you speak as a mom and as someone passionate in the community, someone who exemplifies being a volunteer to the absolute max. Seeing you up there made me feel like I could do it. So it's odd to, I won't say replace you, but you're moving out tonight and I'm moving in, and I really appreciate all that you did setting that up. So thank you, and I hope you have a restful, fun night. Well, we're all stuck at this meeting.
Thank you, and good luck to you too, Carolyn.
Thank you so much.
And our student representative, I don't know if you're more than welcome to say a few words if you like to. And
No pressure.
No, sure. I mean, I haven't been here for very long, but I have enjoyed the time I have spent here, especially with you. And it's been, even though it's been a little weird, I know having everything be online, I think you've done a really good job of keeping it as normal as possible. And I always feel very much included and heard. And I really appreciate that a lot. And I'm sure all the other students do as well. So thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Gabby.
And I'll before we go to some of the public, we do have a special guest here, the Honorable Mayor Bill Peake, who had asked if you could say a few words, and we'd invite him to do so. So, Mr. Mayor, if you would like.
Dr. Porras, thank you very much, and it's really my pleasure on behalf of the city to thank you for letting me speak tonight and recognizing Debbie Crandall for all her years of service, of dedication to the community and students. I'm told she's accomplished or put up a record of 20 years of service. That's impressive. It takes a leap of faith and maybe a little bit of courage to run and hold public office. As trustees know, Debbie's accomplished that, and we've all reaped the benefits. And I'll be issuing a proclamation at our next city council meeting honoring her on January 20th. So Debbie, thank you so very much for all that you've done for all of us.
Thank you so much.
So before I open up for just a few minutes of public comment, Debbie, I just wanted to open the mic up to you for a little bit and see if you wanted to share a few words. I figure I might as well do this now before more people speak, and then it'll be more difficult.
Thank you. Well, you all know I love to cry. Well, I've been practicing this all day, so I'm kind of like preparing myself. First of all, thank you for all the kind words. I just want to say that, let's give me a second. PGUSD, as we all know, I mean, it's a great place to be. Where I can't think of anywhere else I would have wanted to do this. You know, it's not always easy. It hasn't been easy, trust me. And we have to make hard decisions that are not always popular decisions, but we have to make the best decisions. And that doesn't always give us points, but in the long run, it's what's best for the students. So I appreciate all of the support as far as that goes, and understanding there's, you know, different ways to go, and the best for the students is what should be done. All in all, I mean, it's been an honor for sure to be on this board. I would like to my fellow, well, you're not my fellow board members any longer, but to the current board members, it really does take a village. That you hear that a lot, and it is true. It takes a village. There's 5 of you and 5 different life experiences, 5 different opinions, and maybe you'll agree and maybe you won't. But if if you can discuss it and be okay with agreeing to disagree, then that's really all that matters. And I'm confident that can continue. Dr. Porras, I really want to thank you. You've taken what could have been a terrible experience. And there were some terrible nights, but you took what could have been a terrible, like a scary experience for me, and made it smooth and easy to understand. You took the time to explain things over and over and over, with professionalism, kindness, and patience. You're probably the most patient person I've ever known. So I really want to appreciate you and tell you that meant a lot to me, and it really made my 9 years there so much better. And I could go on thanking everybody. I just will never forget all of the teachers, some that have become administrators, you know who you are, that just have made this last 20 years very memorable, and I'll never forget any of you. Thank you.
Wow. Yay. Thank you so much, Debbie. I'm gonna give you a chance to recover there for a moment. And I know there's a couple folks out in the audience that would like to say a few words, and so open up for just a little bit. And if you go under the, I believe it's a participant box, there's a raise hand feature. You can raise your hand. We got a couple folks here, so I'll give it a few minutes and then we'll need to pull it back. But let's go ahead and get started here. And the first hand I see up is Principal Rogman.
Thank you, Dr. Porras. President Crandall, the leadership that you've given us has been from the heart. And so if I may, I'd just like to speak from my own heart for just a couple of moments. I think that one of the things that's really true about the service that you've given us is kind of that motto that to serve is to lead. And when I think of what you've done for, the school board and for the district, you have provided just incredible service and support to us as site leaders. That the closer an issue came to students, the closer it was to your own heart. And you could see that passion reflected as you stood up for the children at, the board meetings, meeting after meeting. And really, Debbie, more than anything else, I really want to thank you for the incredible gift that is the two children that you let us work with. Because I got to know both Kyle and Chris, and both of them were really very, very special boys. And I know that they've grown into really special men. And so thank you so much for giving us the gift of Kyle and Chris, and also for the incredible leadership that you've shown during your service on the board. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That means a lot.
Okay, and Principal Keller.
Thank you, Dr. Porras. Debbie, we have a special bond. I had both your boys in my classroom, and I'll just say with Chris, coming back and serving our football team and just always seeing his excitement, he's a reflection of you. And I just know that your leadership has stemmed from the Just Run program at Forest Grove when it was just coming into its conception. And I remember you when my son was very young at Forest Grove, watching your leadership. And again, I just thank you. I know that all your questions were from the heart, and you learned so much, and I learned from you being a board member. So I just wanted to thank you tonight, and I'll never forget you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sean. I forgot about the Just Run program, actually. Thank you for that.
Principal Martinez.
Yeah, Debbie, I just wanted to say thank you for spending the last 9 years with me in my career, starting out at the high school. I just want us to say there's something about servant leadership and being present. And one thing I've noticed about you over the past 9 years is that you're at everything. You were at all the football games and the dances and the Breakers Club rallies down at Chautauqua Hall and the theaters, all the theater plays. I mean, walk with pride. If there's an event that's happening in Pacific Grove, you're a part of it. And that's what makes you such a great board member, is because you really are vested in truly 100% in all of our children and this town. And for that, I just want to say thank you for making me a better principal and a better person for knowing you.
Wow. Thank you, Barbara.
And Ms. McCarty.
Hey there, Debbie. I would like to just say on the behalf of the PGTA that, we're really thankful for your service to the students and as well as to the teachers. I feel like I have only seen you. I mean, I've only been here for 10 years, so I've only seen you, but I feel like you have been a good advocate for the students and a great advocate for the teachers, and I wish you well. I love how sensitive your heart is for the students and how you get so passionate about things that you really believe in. And I just wanted to say that I've really appreciated all of that you have brought to the board. I'm really going to miss you.
Thank you, Shannon.
Mm-hmm.
And haunting us from our past, Mr. Bell.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Hi. Hey, Debbie, you're not dying. So this is all in celebration of all the work that you've done. You've seen the accolades and triumphs of the district, and you've also seen the underbelly, and yet you recognize the heart and the excellence of the faculties and of the staff and of the administration. And you keep what is best for kids first and foremost under all situations. And you know what I'm going to say, that is not normal. That is not normal. So I just want to say how much I appreciate your work. Frankly, how much I appreciate everyone on the board. It's so often a thankless job. And yet you're not told thank you enough. So thank you for all of your heart and soul that you put into the position. I've been honored to work with you, and I'm honored to call you friend. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. I really appreciate it.
Mr. Roach.
Debbie, this is not administrator to trustee. This is human being to human being. You've always led with your heart. Every decision you've ever made has been what's best for kids, and you were fun. A teacher's personality spreads in a class, and you can kind of feel what the class is like. And your personality really kind of spread during these board meetings, and you did it with such grace and with humor. And I love that, and we love that. My only question for you is, what the heck are you going to do on Thursday nights now? Because you've got a little chunk of time that you have to play with. But I just have to tell you, you'll definitely be missed. As a parent of 3 students that came up through PGUSD, I just thank you for your service and everything you've done for the kids of Pacific Grove, and I'll miss you.
Thank you, Sean.
Okay. And there you go, Director Mankey, you're up.
Hi, Debbie. I sent you a little note earlier, and I just want to reiterate how much I'm going to miss you on the board. One thing is I can't believe 9 years have passed already.
I know.
That is amazing. It's just crazy. But you've led us through some very, very difficult times. Excuse me, that's my dog. Especially this past year. And you've led with dignity and heart. And as we all know, you wear your heart on your sleeve. And it's always for the purpose of supporting students. And for that, I just have such gratitude to you, and just want to express my sincere thanks. Enjoy
Thank
your
you,
Thursday
Billy.
night.
Thank you. I'm going to have to figure out what to do.
Director Silva.
Debbie, heart and soul, authenticity. That's what you have brought to all of us. And I think that is something that we all need, because sometimes we don't give ourselves that permission. And when you have given yourself that permission, then you've given it to us to be in that space. So as the teacher to your son, Chris, I knew you as a mom as a parent who just wanted to be there for her child, and such great respect for you for that, because you were a partner in educating with me. And then as a board member, and then I became an administrator. I mean, you were the only board member to come to my office and sit with me and say, talk to me, tell me about what you do. And gosh, I've appreciated that all these years. I mean, I'm finishing my 10th year now as an administrator. And so just, you're vested in what is right for our students, for our teachers, for all of us. And you bring such a beautiful balance to all of that. And that is through your authenticity, your heart, and your soul. You are a shining star, and we will miss you greatly. So namaste to you.
Thank you, Ani. That means a lot to me.
Assistant Superintendent Chimbendib.
Thank you. Debbie, I've heard the last 9 years, but I'm really privileged to work for you the last 2.5 years. I want to thank you for your unwavering support and the leadership you have provided. To me, you are a silent giant with such inner strength. And you also have a good sense of balance. I really appreciate that you always weigh in from various perspectives, students, staff, families, and the community. And so just want to bid you farewell, but hopefully we'll see you around. I just don't know what you're going to do with all this Thursday evenings now.
Well, you may see me at the podium raising my hand.
Yay.
That's great. One more hand. Enjoy your well-deserved time and happy holidays.
Thank you so much, Song.
Okay, Heloisa.
Yes, I'm Eloisa Junqueira. I have 2 children in the PGUSD system, and everything has a good side. In a pandemic can have a good side, and I've been able to join the board meetings because they've been held online. Otherwise, I would not be here. And I've throughout very happy to get to know everybody and see everybody. And in the name of all the PGUSD parents, I would like to thank you, Madam President, for everything you've done for our kids, and having a mother up there and advocating for all the kids as if they were her own is priceless. So all the PG parents have so much to thank you for.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Okay, and our last speaker here in the queue is Director Davies.
Well, I just have one major regret about Debbie. We never got to go out dancing. So I might have to sneak out of some board meetings, Dr. Porras. So that's how we'll spend our Thursdays, Debbie, okay?
Yeah, as soon as COVID is gone.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Sounds like a plan.
So a couple of things. First of all, Debbie, we have talked about your kindness, your gentleness, your sensitivity. And I want to add how fair you are. There have been times that things have gotten a little stressful and touchy, and you've always been the one that kind of listens to both sides and then steps forward, kind of reminds everybody that we're all on the same team so that we can work through differences together. And I think that's of great value to all of us that you've led us in that way. And I also want to talk about that there's been a few times that as you have advocated for what's right for our students, you've also reminded us that by taking care of our teachers, we are taking care of our students. And I've always admired you for that, because that's right on. It's by taking care of our staff that we're able to best take care of our beautiful children and our families. So I just want to thank you for your years of service, and you will be very much missed.
Thank you, Claire.
Welcome.
Wonderful. How about a virtual round of applause for our outgoing
Thank you
trustee
so
Crandall.
much.
Well, I'll
Thank
just
you.
state the last time, Madam President, thank you for your amazing service and for everything that you've done to help us move along in the service of our students. And hope you have a good evening.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to stay on and watch Carolyn get sworn in and Brian gets re-sworn in, if that's okay.
Absolutely. You're always
Okay.
welcome.
I'm going to mute myself now, though. Thank you all very much. Take care and be kind to each other.
Thank you. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Debbie.
Nice. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move into our organizational portion of the meeting. And the first item, item A, is the administering of the oath to both Trustee Brian Swanson and to Trustee Carolyn Swanson. And the oath will be administered this evening by a very special guest, our Monterey County Office of Education Superintendent, Dr. Deneen Gus, who has been just a stalwart friend of all of the students in our county and the state. And her role has been pivotal during these COVID times. I can't say how proud I am to work under her leadership and what she's done for our students. As we've been talking about the COVID updates every month, and we talk about meeting with the superintendents and meeting with state officials, it's this brave woman who's been leading the charge with the superintendents. And so now you can match a face to the name that you've heard. And we're so honored to have you here administering this oath for our incoming trustees. So Dr. Gus, I'll put it into your hands for a few moments. Uh-oh, did we lose you again? Let's try one more time. There you go. There we go.
There you go. Well, thank you so much, Superintendent Porras. Thank you for those kind words. And before I jump into the oath of office, I wasn't in the queue, but I did want to congratulate Debbie as well. Debbie, I've watched you through the years, and I tell you, your leadership has been so impressive. Always putting students first. You've been a tireless and passionate leader, and I just want to thank you for always putting service above self for all of these years. So congratulations again as you move into your new role, and just so thankful for your great service through the years.
Thank you.
And now it's time for the swearing in. So I just want to say it's such an honor and pleasure to be with all of you today for this swearing in ceremony. I know that being a Board of Trustee is such an important role, and we're just so very fortunate to have such strong leaders who are dedicated to improving outcomes for our children and youth. And of all times to be a leader, this is definitely the toughest time to be stepping up and leading. I would like to congratulate Brian on your re-election. I also want to congratulate and thank you for your 5 years of service to the Pacific Grove School Board, as well as your prior service on the Forest Grove Elementary School Site Council and as a fundraiser volunteer for the PG Music Boosters. On a side note here, I heard someone say earlier about the amazing music program you have in your district. I just have to agree with you and say that PG definitely has very talented musicians, which is why every year when we host state level conferences in our area, I always call upon Superintendent Porras to help line up your musicians to perform. They're just amazing. And Brian, I know that you have been very focused on making sure that students, parents, and teachers have the support they need, and especially during this difficult pandemic that has been challenging all of us. I know you're working hard to support the schools of Pacific Grove in safely reopening, and that's so important. We all know that students learn best when they're in person, and that we also have this great responsibility to keep everyone safe. It's very difficult to be a leader during such uncertain times, but you've put service to your community above self, and I thank you for your dedicated service to the students and families of Pacific Grove. So are you ready to be sworn in?
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Okay, if you will please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Brian Swanson, do solemnly swear or affirm
I, Brian Swanson, do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am to enter.
the duties upon which I am to enter.
Congratulations, Brian. We're so proud of you.
So much.
Superintendent Porras, would you like to give Trustee Swanson a moment to say a few words, or would you like me to go on to the next swearing in?
You know what? I think, why don't we go ahead and give Trustee Brian Swanson a few opportunity, and then we'll move over to Trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Great, thank you.
I'll make it quick. I'm just thrilled to be coming in for another 4. I thought about it long and hard, and at times I thought maybe I wouldn't be doing this, but and I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for the support of my amazing wife, Ruth, who is probably watching something on Netflix right now. But also without the tremendous support of the teachers and the district as a whole, and Dr. Porras and everyone, the whole community, and of course without their votes it wouldn't have been possible either. But I just end of the day, I really do enjoy this. It makes I see it as important, but I also really do enjoy it. It's fun. There are times when you want to pull your hair out, but there are other times when, and I think the times that it feels like we're really doing something good, those outnumber the times that you maybe want to pull those hairs out. And I look across the screen, and I'd sent this late night text, I think, to Dr. Porras last week, where it's like, I looked across the screen at the end of the evening at everybody who was there, and from staff on down to the community, and just a stellar group of people, and that I could be somehow part of this stellar group of people makes me really proud and very, very happy. So that was supposed to be short. I went on longer than I wanted to, but it's from the heart. Thanks again to everybody. I really appreciate it.
Well, again, congratulations. We're so happy for you and so proud of you. And now, Carolyn, I have a few words I'd like to say. First of all, just congratulations and welcome to your new role as Pacific Grove Board Trustee. I know, Carolyn, that you have also been very involved and as a parent, serving as secretary on the Forest Grove Elementary School Site Council, which has been working toward closing achievement gaps for socioeconomically disadvantaged students, foster youth, English learners, and children with disabilities. Your leadership also brought the Be Smart Safe Gun Storage. And I just have to say, I'm so thankful that you brought that forward. Our county board followed your lead. We also passed a resolution in support of that program. And you also brought the LGBTQ plus Pride Month resolutions to the board, which were passed unanimously. Thank you for your leadership and your desire to find creative and sustainable and safe ways to educate students safely during the pandemic and beyond. That's the charge, right? Not just during the pandemic, but and beyond. I'm confident that the district's in good hands, hands that are washed regularly for at least 20 seconds, right? All parents know, keep washing those hands. So if you are now ready to be sworn in, please raise your right hand. Are you ready?
Yes, Dr. Gus.
Please repeat after me. I, Carolyn Swanson, do solemnly swear or affirm.
I, Carolyn Swanson, do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations. We're so proud of you. Before I turn it over to Carolyn to say a few words, I just want to say it truly was an honor to be here to swear both of you in tonight and to join the PG colleagues. You are our friends. You have amazing leaders. You have amazing educators, wonderful parents, wonderful students, and it is always such a pleasure to not only be in your board meetings, but also to tour your schools when we're not in pandemic mode, and to invite your students, again, to perform at performances and just shine, because they are true bright stars to our county. And I'm just so thankful for all of the great work that you're doing in PG. So you have joined a great team, Carolyn. You're going to make great things happen.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Gus. Thank you for being here. And thank you to all my friends and family who have Zoomed in tonight. I do want to thank my husband for all the support for running the campaign. I never thought I'd run for office while never leaving my house. It was a strange time. So I'm honored to have won the seat. And I am the mother to Dorothy, who is my magic child. She is watching tonight. She's in 2nd grade. And she is the leader for me. So I'm very thankful to Dorothy. Thank you, Dorothy. And my husband, Brian Swanson, my mom, who helps me with childcare, because I think we all know that moms can't hold roles like this unless we have childcare. So thank you so much to my mother for all of this. To my mother-in-law, I love her and she's watching. And if I don't say thank you to my mother-in-law, I'm going to get in trouble. Anyways, also to the trustees and to the staff and to the members of the public, I value each of you equally. And I'm honored to, in the next 4 years, hear from you and hopefully be able to be a good representative for the public, a calm, collaborative force amongst my fellow trustees, and someone who the staff trusts and can know that they can bring the information, and that I will listen, and that they will be heard, and I will listen to their recommendations as long as it makes sense for the families of our district. So thank you so much for all your time tonight.
A virtual round of applause for both our sworn in trustees. Wonderful. Once again, Dr. Gus, you're welcome to stay as long as you like, but thank you so much for being here this evening. And I know you've got other districts to tend to as well. So I wish you the very best and have a wonderful and blessed holiday season as well. So. Okay, we're now back on board, no pun intended, and we'll go ahead and move to our next item, which is the election of our president. This is a 1-year period or term, and for both the president and for the clerk, all we need is a nomination from the other trustees, or a trustee may self-nominate. There are no seconds required. Once we have all of the nominees confirmed, then we will move to a vote, and we will basically follow in alpha order by last name. And the first trustee that receives a majority vote, in this case 2, they will be elected into the office of the presidency. So unless there's any questions, I'll go ahead and ask if there are any motions out there or any nominations out there for the office of president.
I nominate.
Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Brian. I nominate Trustee John Paff for president.
And
Okay.
I will nominate Christy Dawson for president.
So thus far we have trustee Christy Dawson and trustee John Paff as nominees. Do we have any other nominees? Nope. Okay. So we'll go ahead and start on the vote, please. The first person we will take votes for is trustee Christy Dawson. All those in favor of voting for Christy Dawson as president, please say aye.
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 Okay. Well, we have the majority vote with 2 votes there. So at this point, Christy Dawson will be serving as our president for the first year here. And I know she's probably watching. If she's not watching, we'll get the message to her. And she understood that she could be elected and not be able to run this meeting this evening. So congratulations to trustee Dawson. I know she'll do a great job and looking forward to seeing her service this year. Because she's not here, normally I would then pass the gavel over to the new president to go nominate the clerk. I'm going to go ahead and do that this evening on her behalf as well. Let's go ahead and move to the office of the clerk or vice president. This person is, again, it's a 1-year period or term, and no second is required. So if I may receive any nominations for the office of clerk.
I'll nominate myself for that.
Any other nominations? Okay, well, we have one nominee, trustee Brian Swanson. And so we'll open it up for the vote. All those in favor of Brian Swanson to serve as the vice president or clerk for a 1-year period, please say aye.
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 And I heard all 3, so I'm assuming there's no opposed. So congratulations, trustee Brian Swanson. You are our clerk. And I'm going to go ahead and now virtually hand the gavel over to you. You will go ahead and take the meeting for us the rest of the way, and we'll help you along as much as you need or require. And how about a virtual round of applause for our new officers that are now in place for this new year. Okay.
Terrific. Thank you, everyone. So moving on, next item is determination of dates, times, and locations of regular meetings.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Well, we have listed there for you the first and third Thursdays of each month as our regular board meetings, and certainly we can add any others as we need to or determine during board meetings. And these meetings would be started at 6:30 p.m. and here, well, typically at the district office boardroom meeting, but until such time as we can, the meetings will be held virtually via the Zoom platform. And when we can return to school sites, there are school site visits as well. That's what the staff recommends for you.
Fellow board members, any thing you'd like to add? Any comments or thoughts on that, John?
Well, I would very much prefer to move it back to 7. The difficulty of 5:30 as a start is adds complexity for sure.
I think in particular for you and trustee Walton, who are often stuck in traffic, it has presented, that alone has presented a challenge, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely traffic coming back. I mean, we could actually move it the other direction and then have closed session after, but it just puts you at a later time. I mean, this was set up at the last organization meeting, and I was not here. I was on company travel. I mean, I understand. I'm not, it'd be better for me, but I also understand if you believe it's better for everybody else, both trustees and parents, to keep it where it is. So.
And trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Thank you, trustee Brian Swanson. I actually prefer the 7 p.m. as well.
for me, it's sort of 6 of one, half dozen of the other, but it's it's about all of us and what works best. Of course, for me, when we're physically meeting, it could not possibly be easier unless we were having everybody walk 20 steps to my living room instead, but not everybody can fit in there. So I'm fine with moving it back to 7. You know, I think one of the things that we had talked about when we were bouncing it a little bit earlier was the notion that we would maybe be done a little bit earlier too. And I don't think we ever have been. I think we've more added a half an hour to these meetings rather than just made it us close out a little bit earlier. So I'm fine with making that adjustment. So Dr. Porras, do we need to then, make a motion to adjust those times?
You have some public comment.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, public comment, please.
If I may, Mr. Clerk, yes, in answer to your question, yeah, you'll just ask for a motion that entails that change, and then you can move forward with that action when it comes.
Okay, and we do have a raised hand. If we can unmute Heloisa.
Yes, working on that now. There she goes.
Yes, I don't know if this is the right time to say this, but I would just like to request when the pandemic is over, if there will be a continued opportunity for parents and other people to join via Zoom, along with the physical presence of the people that are at the meeting at the different sites, if there can be a concurrent, a video meeting. So more, for example, I would not have the chance to participate on campus, whatever you guys are, every time there's a meeting. And I think there's a lot of other parents in the same situation. So, but pardon me if I'm not allowed to ask for this at this time.
Well, I think you make a good point, and I don't think it's something that we would decide at this very moment in time, but I do think it's something that I believe it might even be a future agenda item, isn't it?
Yes, it is on future agenda. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I expect that we will get to it, especially in time for whenever we're at that point, which I think is still a ways down the road before we're all gathered together in a room together. We have Claire Davies raising her hand too.
Oh, I just wanted to, and I hope I'm correct about this. As I recall the discussion that we had at the time when we were discussing moving it to start at 6:30, it was in consideration of the administrators and the teachers having meetings in at 10:45, 11 o'clock, and then folks having to turn around and be on campus early the next morning. So I think that I believe, if I recall correctly, it was around, that was the discussion that was being had at the time.
I think I do recall that now too, and thank you for reminding us of that. I'm wondering, as we kick this around a little bit, Dr. Porras, is there the possibility as we move into the future with this for administrators to actually have to be physically present if we had Zoom calls going at the same time that we were conducting meetings in person? Is that something that, so for the people that wanted to or needed to be at home, is that something that is possible?
Sure, that's absolutely possible. I think that as far as being present for the meeting, even with a Zoom meeting, we would be present, obviously, throughout the meeting, because so many questions come up regarding what's happening with the sites. But certainly we could work something to that effect if we needed to.
Mr. Swanson?
Yes.
So the other option, and we can leave it at 5:30. I mean, there's reasons. Mine is almost purely selfish, and maybe I shouldn't go there. But the other thing that can happen is you can change the direction of closed session and put that at the end, and we could do that at a later time. That's written in our board agenda as part of board policy. Am I correct, Dr. Porras?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And we could swap that at a later date. We don't have to decide now for sure. So.
Well, and I'm hesitant for us to move it forward without two of the board members here too. So can we, for the moment, do we need to make any kind of motion if we're leaving it as is for the time being?
Well, we're essentially kind of resetting today. So we still don't need to get a motion. for this item. I believe you can bring it back if there needs to be a change at some point in time, but we do need to reset the new year with the location and the time. So at the very least, if you wish to leave it the same, just simply, we would need a motion that reflects the current conditions.
Do we have a motion to do that?
I make a motion to leave it as is right now.
All right, I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Trustee Paff and a second by Mr. Clerk.
Do we have any comment from our student representative while we're at it?
Oh, hang on, I need to unmute her.
Sorry, Gabby, didn't mean to put you on the spot there.
It's all good. I was just gonna say I don't have a comment at this time, but thank you.
Okay, very well. So we have a motion and a second, Mr. Clerk. It's all yours.
And then we would go to a roll call vote, right?
That's correct.
And this would need to be unanimous, correct?
At this point, yes, it would need to be because we need a majority of the vote. So yes.
Okay, so Trustee Paff,
Aye.
Trustee Carolyn Swanson,
Aye.
Trustee Brian Swanson, aye. Passes 3 unanimously.
Sure. Very good. Okay. There you go.
Okay, next up, we are at item E, adoption of resolution number 1063, designating authorized agents to sign school orders. Dr. Porras, I think this is fairly routine. I think we see this every year, don't we?
Yeah, we do. That's correct. This is just simply, again, for the new board signing on to this resolution that basically allows Assistant Superintendent Chin Ben Dib and I to sign contracts on behalf of the board. And the board would see that come back as for the board to recognize that it happened at some point in time. So there wouldn't be, the board would have an opportunity to take action on and after arrears as well. So but this allows us to sign those contracts.
Okay. Any board members, any comment? Questions?
None from me.
Any public comment? All right, and student representative, we have anything? I'm going to say we do not. So can I get a motion?
Make a motion to adopt resolution 1063, designating Dr. Porras and Ms. Chinbed Dib to sign school orders.
I second.
All right, we have a first from Trustee Paff and a second from Trustee Carolyn Swanson. Let's go to a roll call vote. Trustee Paff.
Aye.
Trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Aye.
Trustee Brian Swanson. Aye. Passes unanimously.
Wonderful. And Mr. President, if it makes it easier for you, Ms. Ackerman can go ahead and do the roll call for you if you like.
Well,
that's amazing. Makes it a little bit easier for you. It's up to you. I just need to remember to unmute her every time. So.
Let's do that. She's more used to that than I am right now anyway. So
it may just be helpful for you.
Okay, great. Moving on to item F, designation of committee representative for Monterey County School Board Executive. Now, this is one that Trustee Dawson has done in the past, is it not?
Correct.
That's correct.
Yes.
And has anybody spoken to her about it?
Have not. We can table this for the time being.
All right, so you're going to move to table this?
Yes.
I'll second that. Any other board member comment?
None.
Public comment? Seeing none. All right, we have a first and a second. Give it to Mandy now.
My roll calling.
Yes, please.
Okay, so sorry. Trustee Paff.
Aye.
Trustee Brian Swanson.
Aye.
Trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Aye.
Student advisory.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, Dr. Porras, knowing that we don't really have any changes or anything to report right now in closed session. Is it required that we go to closed session? We're already running late, aren't we?
We are slated to move into closed session at 7:15 to 8:15. So we're just a little short of the time. However, it's up to the board in regards to your decision to move to closed session. There are no new information on any of those items. However, they can be discussed in closed session since it's agendized. So the board is still absolutely in their purview to go to closed session. And if you want to return on time, we would return at 8:15 for open session.
Well, I think given that we have a new board member too, and we do have a little slack in the line on the back end of this, I would still be in favor of us moving into closed session just to get Trustee Carolyn Swanson up to speed on a few things that are closed session items.
Okay. Very well.
So we can just continue on, right? We're preparing now for closed session. Items that will be discussed are negotiations with collective bargaining session planning and prep for PGTA 2021, negotiations with collective bargaining session CSEA for the year 2021, and conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation pursuant to paragraph 1, subdivision D of Government Code section 54956.9. Do we have any public comment on closed session topics? I'm seeing none. All right, let us adjourn to closed session. And I believe, Mr. Mejia, you were going to do some sort of breakout invite for those who were supposed to be in there. Is that correct? Trustee Carolyn. I see path. All right, great. So welcome back, everybody. We're going to reconvene here. Reporting on closed session items. I'm going to be so bold and just do a blanket statement that we received information on items 1, 2, and 3. No direction was given, but valuable information was received. Is that acceptable, Dr. Porras? I'm not hearing anything.
There you go. Yes, that's perfect.
Okay, all right. And we are going to take a 5-minute break so that people can do the things that they need to do. For me, it's to find a power adapter. So I'm going to set my timer for 5 minutes and we will see everybody back at that time. Closed session, we decided that as far as the two Swansons are concerned, we will be Trustee Carolyn and Trustee Brian. So anybody is wondering, or just I'm fine with Brian too, in case anybody's wondering, because it was starting to get a little long already. So okay, so we already reported on closed session items. Moving on to written communications to the board members. I saw numerous items relating to 6154, our homework policy, and also about 5 emails relating to the middle school hybrid schedule. Did we see anything else?
That's what I have, is 10 questions on 6154 and 5 on the middle school. And the middle school, many of them were asking for an additional survey of parents, which has gone out and is in the process of coming back.
All right, very good. Then I think we can move on to board member comments. Trustee Paff.
So, a couple things. One is I did sit in on much of the sing-along, which was really quite enjoyable in a lot of ways. I appreciated that. And Mr. Mazur should be congratulated on getting that together. And I'm not quite sure how the organization went, but thank you to everybody who participated. And I scrolled through quite a bit of photos, and it seemed like children were having a great time, which is really positive. I read the letters on 6154 and on the middle school AB versus an AM PM. I think the latter is, I think by Friday morning we had already recognized independently that somehow we had worked our way into a setup that was a little bit odd, because 4 schools were one way and 1 was another, and we're already starting the process of that. So I don't think I have any further comment on that. But the 6154, those letters, they vary quite a bit. And I just want to suggest that the one that I really appreciated most was Julie Kavanaugh. I'm not sure if she's online, but what she wrote was, it would be really good to have a study session to consider this further. And that was just about it. It was one line. And I say that because, in fact, this isn't a board question yet. The reason why it's not, and why it was pulled, in my opinion, and I asked to pull it, is because it came up in a discussion. Somebody asked a question. The answer to the question was very straightforward. And then suddenly the next week we're looking at it saying, why is this on there? If there is questions on it, it should almost certainly go through Principal Garcia to have a study session with all of the shareholders, which is not parents in a boardroom. It's parents and teachers and students working with what does that particular school need. And then, and only then, does a suggestion to actually change policy come forth out of it. So while I read these letters, and I really appreciate the feedback, I would urge that at the end of today, when we get to this, we consider that really that session should start. And I think for the most part, it's at the high school, although not entirely. To look at it at that is the right spot to begin that discussion and not try and push it from the top down. So that is what I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Bryan. I agree with the written communications. Those are the ones that I got as well. And I have 2 things I wanted to share. One is I heard from my husband that apparently at the beginning of this meeting, I said Brian was my husband and not Brandon Swanson.
I wasn't going to say anything.
It's humorous. There isn't a lot of humor in these meetings. And for years, it's always been kind of a chuckle, because I would go up to public comment and the first thing I would say was, I'm Carolyn Swanson, not related to Brian Swanson. And somehow tonight, Brian, okay. So I wanted to clarify, and I think I'm gonna have to keep clarifying since I made that confusing for myself. So I'm sorry to my husband, Brandon, and I'm sorry, Brian, that people would ever think we're married, because I'm not easy. Okay. The second thing that I was always going to say was this past Saturday, I signed up and attended this really neat seminar. It was like a 4-hour seminar called All In for Equity, and it was hosted by our Monterey County Office of Ed. And the whole seminar was for school board members, teachers, classified staff, anyone related to schools in our county and kind of beyond, to get together. There was about 200 people who attended. It's their second one. They're going to have a third one in the beginning of next year. And it's all about how to build inclusive communities in our schools. And I watched some programming that actually it was really moving, and I hope that we can kind of maybe talk about that later and incorporating it. And I will say there was one idea that just really spoke to me, and it was regarding back to school nights. They were saying back to school night is a celebration where we all come together, which I agree with. And one way to make that inclusive is to have hot food. So the gentleman presenting said, when we celebrate, we don't have cold food, we have hot food in my culture and in my family. And so maybe that's something we can explore later, is to really showcase our food service. We have a wonderful food service director, Stephanie Lip, and I've just seen our food service department really just making me proud. So maybe that's something we can work on later. That's all.
Okay, cool. So I have a couple of things. Today I watched the Poetry Out Loud segment, which was really incredible. If anybody has a chance, there is a link out there. Mandy was kind enough to send it, and it's really remarkable. We had 3 students actually competing and another student who had recorded something in advance, and just wonderful talent amongst our students and some really powerful poetry, and simply that they were brave and bold enough to get up and do that. They all have to be commended, as does Mr. Hagquist and Ms. Gordon, who I think put the whole thing together and made it happen too. But it was really impressive. So there's that. What else? You know, I did also, we don't often hear from Mandy. She's in the background and taking the names, and that's sometimes all we hear, but she and her husband need to be congratulated because they are now new parents of a young girl who will be class of, if you can believe this, 2036. Did the math twice. So congratulations to Mandy and Andrew on that. And I think that is all I have. So let's move on to superintendent report.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I'll keep this very short in deference to the agenda this evening. I just wanted to just make a comment similar to what you just spoke about. I was thinking long and hard most of the day today, just about kind of the times that we're in, and how much just the conditions of COVID and the social distancing, and now the stay-at-home order and all of that, the toll that it is that it's taking on many of us and most of us. And I want to extend an appreciation, really, because I don't know that we do it enough, to all of our staff who are going well out of their way to build social, emotional learning opportunities for our students, and opportunities that are beyond just academic. And it's giving a lot of our students just a safe place to be from all of the other pressures that are just surrounding them right now. And talking about, you know, the teachers that have stepped up, and all the staff that have stepped up at the elementaries, for example, to start building virtual clubs for our students, and which was not necessary, but everyone realized we need to give them a space to be in. Talking about Mr. Kelly at the high school and the arts and the work that he's doing, and the time that he goes back to the kiln to really give his students an extra special attention. You know, Dr. Hagquist and the work that he's doing, along with Sally Richmond and other teachers at the high school who are opening up other clubs and opportunities, the foods programs, and watching how a lot of the students are reacting to the culinary arts, more than just the classwork, but the opportunity to just socialize and be together. There are just lots and lots of examples. But I just, from my end of it as superintendent, just so grateful for all of the staff who are just making this happen for our students. And I think it's special about Pacific Grove. It's special about our district, and really just honored and to be part of this great group. So I wanted to extend that thank you out, and I'll leave it at that, and we'll move on with the agenda.
Thank you. Moving on to PGUSD staff comments on non-agenda items. Take a look and see, do we have? Actually don't see. All right, we have Barbara Martinez. Can we open it up to Barbara?
Yep.
Hey, everybody. I'm Barbara Martinez, and I am the principal at Pacific Grove Adult School. I'm also district safety officer for the district. And I just wanted to know, in case you haven't heard or didn't attend last night's city council meeting, the city council voted 5-2 in favor of rescinding the ordinance that was formally approved back in September to bring one marijuana dispensary, cannabis dispensary, to Pacific Grove. It came as quite a surprise and upset to members of our community. not just whether you're in favor or oppose having a dispensary in town. It was more about the due process of bringing people together and getting all stakeholders together to give information to city council so that they could make a formative decision. I really just, I'm not going to steal anyone's thunder because I know Debbie Beck's here tonight, but I do want to formally recognize her as a member of our community and a business owner who really spearheaded the referendum movement and gathered volunteers, not for or against the ordinance, just against the process. So with her leadership and her leading other volunteers, she was able to gather over 1,000 signatures for the referendum and bring it back. I do want to commend also Mayor Peak for bringing the new ordinance to the table last night. It was quite a lengthy city council meeting, but and many people had a chance to voice their opinions. But at the end of the day, Mayor Peak really did balance the conversation, and we came back with a 5-2 vote in favor of rescinding the ordinance. So thank you, Debbie Beck, for all of your hard work. And hopefully in the future, we'll become stronger partners with the city to make it safer for our children. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Barbara. Principal Garcia, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. Lito Garcia, Principal PG High and Community High. And two things. One, I just want to build off what Dr. Porras was mentioning in regards to opportunities to recognize and support our students. And a big thank you to the PG High PTA, who has put on several events where we've been able to invite various classes. Recently this week, we had our juniors and seniors come on campus, seniors to get a breakfast burrito provided by the Grove Market. So thank you for that. And for our juniors to come on campus and get some snacks in the afternoon and get a Starbucks card. So those were some real powerful moments, and it was great to see the kids in a safe and sane way on campus. And also, as has come up on several board meetings, and it's come up this evening in regards to homework at PG High. Prior to the Thanksgiving break, we instituted a policy on campus where no homework will be assigned or due over holidays or breaks going forward through this school year. So just wanted to mention that to everyone who's here this evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I don't see any other hands raised. So moving on to individuals desiring to address the board, since we have sort of a fresh start here, I'm going to read the intro to this. It's important. Public comment on any item of interest to the public that is within the board's jurisdiction will be heard. The board may limit comments to no more than 3 minutes for each agenda or non-agenda item. A total time for public input on each item is 20 minutes pursuant to board policy 9323. Public comment will also be allowed on each specific action item prior to board action thereon. This meeting of the Board of Education is a business meeting of the board conducted in public. Please note that the Brown Act limits board's ability to respond to public comment. I want to read that again. Please note that the Brown Act limits the board's ability to respond to public comment. So in other words, this isn't really a Q&A, but we appreciate the comments. Sometimes we may be mute after that, and that's because of the nature of what this is. The board may choose to direct items to the administration for action or place an item on future agenda. So with that said, do we have any public comment? I see a Jennifer Braden. Can we unmute Jennifer Braden?
Yes, working on that now.
Hi, just unmute. So I think that all we're trying to do is just be as parents as open and honest about what we think the best practices are during a pandemic. I mean, I'm certain that this has been something that we're all kind of doing on a learning curve. And so I'm just curious as to what the board is looking for to sing will be some actions that will help with mental health for all of our students moving forward. What steps are we making to make sure that this long-term impact will, what it will have on them? And having two middle schoolers, one in 6th grade and one in 8th grade, the variance is massive, because my 8th grader will be going into high school, but I have my 6th grader who has not even met his teachers. So I'm just looking forward to hearing what we will hopefully encompass as or at least enact some kind of way to make sure that they are all going to be emotionally dealt with as well.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer Braden. I see Sean Keller's hand raised. Is that meant to be up for public comment or for staff?
I think he's for public. Mr. Vice President, if I may, for just a moment, if I may interrupt you. I forgot to remind you that as we have 3 minutes per each speaker, we're short on board members this evening, and we forgot to assign a timekeeper. And I've asked Trustee Paff if he'd be willing to do that. So I think he'd be able to assist you.
I have a timer running too, so.
Okay, very good.
I'm happy to do that, Brian. I'm happy to give somebody a 30-second warning, which is an interruption. For that, I apologize, but it will interrupt in 3 minutes. Up to you.
Brian, no, you go for it. You're the time. Sean Keller, can we unmute Sean?
Thank you, Trustee Brian. I did not take an opportunity to thank the Robert Down PTA for treating our staff to First Awakenings breakfast or lunch today and tomorrow. So thank you to the Robert Down PTA, and happy holidays to everyone.
Thank you so much. Wendy Giles, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. She looked like she was unmuted for just a second.
Oh, we muted her again. Hang on a second. Yeah.
There we go. We have Wendy, you are on. And
there should be there he goes.
What about now?
There you go. Got it.
Great. Good. Okay. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate you. We played a little game there. Okay. Well, first off, I want to thank everyone who signed the petition about the cannabis dispensary issue. And I really appreciate everyone who spoke at the meetings over the last the two meetings in September. And Dr. Martinez, thank you so much for speaking last night again. As one of the volunteers in the community to gather the signatures for the petition, I was really concerned. Setting a precedent like that with that kind of a proposal without following all the protocols and the important due process is very dangerous. And I really felt very strongly that the due process was being compromised. The reason I'm bringing that up this evening, though, is that there were some issues regarding voter registrations. And we had a number of long time Pacific Grove residents that, because of their signatures on the petitions, their signatures were not perfectly matching their exact signature, their exact address, the number of their address, also things like spelling out the city of Pacific Grove, any of these types of infractions throughout the signatures. So the reason I wanted to bring this to everyone's attention is that maybe for some of us who've had the same registration for a long time in the community, that as we move forward through many more elections and issues in our community, to please just sort of check in with the election board and check your voter registration. I know that really seems a little mundane, but it was really just down to 3 signatures. and we certainly had enough. But the Board of Elections has very strict standards. And like many other parents in the community, my second thing that I want to talk about very quickly, I'm looking for the timer, but I don't see it.
It's not there. You have 30 seconds, Ms. Giles.
Okay, thank you. I just want to also echo my concern. Here we are, day 84 in my home with distance learning, and we are happy to go the whole way to keep everyone safe in our community as needed. But I also want to echo what Jen was talking about with just the mental health component for these kids. It is really, really, really tough. And I'm very concerned about it. I know that you all are too. And the
That's
amount
time, Ms. Giles.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone.
And I apologize for interrupting. Thank you.
That's okay, thank you.
Okay, I see no other hands raised for public comments, so we're going to move on to consent agenda, and then I'm going to read the intro again to this. I think it's important as we sort of start off a new year. Items listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine and or may have been discussed at a previous board meeting. There is no discussion of these items prior to board vote unless a member of the board requests specific items be discussed and or removed from the consent agenda. Each item on the consent agenda approved by the Board of Trustees shall be deemed to have been considered in full and adopted as recommended. So that said, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I actually need to ask Ralph a question. At what level of do I have to recuse myself if I'm not directly related but indirectly related to any of these items? What's the threshold? It's never come up. But...
That's a good one. If you're if being part of the vote in some way sways the effect of the vote, or if you have a financial interest in the outcome of that vote, you'd need to recuse yourself.
Okay, there's no financial interest in it. It's fine. It's arm's length away. Thanks. I make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second that. Can we get a roll call vote, please, Mandy?
Trustee Paff.
But do we need public comment?
I'm sorry, yes. Do we have public comment? Thank you, Trustee Paff. Do we have any public comment on consent agenda items? And how about you, Gabby? I'm sorry I left you off. I think that's an okay. I think Gabby's okay too. So, all right. Sorry, Mandy, go ahead.
No, that's okay. Trustee Paff.
Aye.
Trustee Brian Swanson.
Aye.
Trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Aye.
Student advisory.
Oh, we got to unmute her. This is going to be interesting. Sorry.
Leave her unmuted.
You just give her a thumbs up for the moment.
Thank you.
Okay, that sounds like we passed unanimously. Moving on to action discussion item A, updates to board policy regulation and exhibit 1312.3 uniform complaint procedure. I reviewed it. I trust our other board members have. Fellow board members, do we need any further explanation from Dr. Porras on this?
I do not.
Trustee Carolyn, how are you?
You know what, I wouldn't mind, since we have a lot of families on tonight, and I don't know if Dr. Porras wouldn't mind just doing a brief overview of what the uniform.
Great idea, though. It's a good idea. Thank you.
Sure, more than happy to. The uniform complaint procedure is actually a federal requirement. This is all schools are required to provide some kind of platform for any parent or student or anyone in the community actually to file a complaint, a discrimination complaint based on programs that are federally funded or monitored. And so this is separate than like a basic complaint against an employee or a complaint that a parent might file about something that has to do with general policy. There are some very specific guidelines around the areas that they may complain about, and that's what's listed for you here. Some of this may have to do with student fees, for example, the local control accountability plan, foster homeless youth. Those are all federally funded support programs. And so if you read through the document, you'll see the various categories. Every year, this UCP, as it's referred to, gets modified. It gets adjusted by the federal government, the Department of Education. Those changes then come through us, to us through the state, and the state highlights, here are some areas that need to be changed on UCP. And then here are the protections that students that are affected by these funds need to be addressed. We send to legal counsel. Legal counsel then revises our current UCP to adapt for the changes that are put into place. These are not changes that we looked for. These are mandated, and we have to put them into play. And so if a parent has any concerns that come up into these areas, there's a complaint form that's part of this document. It can be found on our district website. And a parent would just need to click onto that to be able to access the form, access all of these policies, and be able to address any of the complaints that they have regarding discrimination in these areas. And there are times when a parent is unsure of whether or not it falls under the category of a UCP, and we are more than happy to walk parents through whether or not it is, if it qualifies, how they can fill the form out so that they can get as much support as possible. And so I think, trying to think in the past, perhaps the areas that are most, that complaints have come to in the past, probably mostly around areas of racial discrimination or gender discrimination. Those are probably the categories I would say countywide that we have seen most of the complaints that would come to. Those are filed there for you, and you can take a look at what that looks like. That's kind of a 30,000 foot level view of what a UCP is.
Perfect, thanks. That helps, and Trustee Carolyn, thank you for asking for that, because I sometimes take it for granted that these things that we've seen often may be brand new to some people too. So that, I think that's helpful. Do we have any? Go ahead, John.
I just one other thought that might be helpful too. Page 70 of the packet, it has the exhibit for this policy. It's the actual complaint form, and I think if a layperson not used to kind of the vernacular of the schools looks at that form, I think it does a pretty good job of saying here are the specific areas, and here's what they look like, and here's what the concerns you may have. So if you get lost in the jumble of the other regulations and policies, the complaint form itself is pretty helpful.
Dr. Porras, is my recollection correct? If someone were to try and review this, it's readily available on page 1 of our website?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, we'll be, once this has been approved, we'll revise that on the website as well.
Board members, any other questions or anything else to add?
Nothing further. Thank you.
Okay. Public comment on this item. I'll give it a beat. I'm not seeing any hands immediately raised. All right, can I see a motion?
I make a motion to accept the revisions to policy and exhibit 1312.3.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion from Trustee Path and a second from Trustee Carolyn Swanson. Mandy, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, Trustee Path,
Aye.
Trustee Brian Swanson,
Aye.
Trustee Carolyn Swanson,
Aye.
Student Advisory. Thumbs up, any?
If I may, while we're in this moment, Mr. Vice President, our student has finals, so she needed to leave the meeting. I think she was waiting for the student board member report, so she needed to make an exit. So no problem at all. But that's why she's not answering. So
I totally blew that off, didn't I?
We'll get a written one from her, and perhaps we can get that posted. So.
All right. Well, that
I missed it too, so it's
that's to see mine. It's not running this meeting. Let's see if I can do a little better as we move on to action discussion item B, approval of public disclosure AB 1200 collective bargaining agreements with Pacific Grove Teachers Association and California School Employees Association. Song, would you mind just giving us a thumbnail sketch of this and what we're looking at?
Thank you, Vice President Brian. These are the pages in a nutshell. These are pages were missed in June when we settled. If you remember, we unprecedented pace, especially with CSA. We did it in 3 days, and then over the weekends where the county approved that, because with any negotiated increase in salary, we have to have 10 days prior to the board's approval. We have to the county's approval. So at that time, we had all the signatures, of course, through the pandemic, because we had this, bounds of signature to each of the representatives in each groups, both the teachers and the CSA, and also with the district. So we have all that signed, tentative agreement, also the board cover. At that time, we were delineating all the details of the settlements in terms of its percentage and or health benefits were very much reported to the board and to the public. But these pages were not included. So at this time, we're bringing these pages back for the board to approve, and we'll send this over to the county. It was when the county asked for that, and I thought, I say, we sent all these pages over, and of course, when lo and behold, I look at my drawer, they're nicely tucked into my drawer. This was my oversight.
Okay, terrific. Fellow board members, do you have any questions, comments, clarifications that you're looking for here?
I do not. I read this, basically over the weekend, and I had no comments then, to the point where it seemed to me we were following a rubric just to ensure that what we had already agreed to was in place. And so I have no question. Thank you.
Great. Trustee Carolyn?
I do not have any questions. I will comment that I found I like that it was a succinct document. I feel like if anybody wanted to get a quick overview of our negotiations, it's a kind of a neat document, actually. So thank you, Assistant Superintendent Chinvendib, for putting it together. Whether or not it was left out in error, I think we all make mistakes like that. So thank you for doing it.
All right, I have nothing further. Do we have any public comment? I'll give it a couple of beats here, but I'm not seeing, nor am I really expecting any hands raised, but we'll. And in 3, 2, 1, can I get a motion, please?
Well, okay. I have to go back. I'd like to make a motion to approve public disclosure AB 1200 of CBAs with PGTA and CSEA.
Second that. And can we get a roll call, please, Mandy?
Trustee Path?
Aye.
Trustee Brian Swanson?
Aye.
Trustee Carolyn Swanson?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right.
On this item, Dr. Porras, do you need signatures on this in any manner from us?
Yes, we're gonna. I think there's a document that has a signature, and I think Mandy will get those to you guys.
Right, that's exactly what the county is looking for. They have approved, they have reviewed this document, they have approved it. This is a signature page that we missed.
Okay, Mandy, I'm happy to sign for clerk, as Brian is going to sign as president, I think, right? If it comes to it, whatever you need.
I'm going to text you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Porras, did you have something you were interjecting there or no?
No,
okay, you're good. All right. Moving on to item C, approval of Measure A education technology expenditures. Again, if we can get a brief overview either from Mr. Binder or Mr. Mejia about what it is we're looking for, mostly again, I think for the public's benefit. I do think there are a good number of new people here too. So if we get a quick
Sure, thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Matthew Binder, Director of Ed Tech. I'm here with my partner, Coordinator Jonathan Mejia. We work together to essentially coordinate the process of building this expenditure list in 6-month cycles. This is the January, February 2021 cycle as represented here. This is a collective effort by the tech committee, which is comprised of personnel from all corners of the district, certificated, classified, administrative, as well as some parents. We've got a couple of parents on the committee this year as well. These items, much of them are actually taken out of our long-term budget development plan, which is pretty much we have a 5-year planning process at this point, a budget that extends out now 5 years, this one 2025 essentially. A lot of these are reoccurring or in process, large kind of scale projects that we have budgeted out across that 5-year timeline. This is the process basically occurs, like I said, over the course of the 6-month spending cycle, where the tech committee evaluates these items, ranks them, prioritizes them, and ultimately sends it off as a finalized committee endorsed list for approval every 6 months into this. We've included some distribution, disaggregation there as far as site, but again, this particular list, being that it is tied to now a longer term budget compared to previous lists, again, has mostly what we have accounted for as large projects, reoccurring annual expenses, et cetera. And we tie all this to essentially the tech plan, which is in current revision right now. We expect to have that available for board review and approval, hopefully in early spring. Lots going on right now. I'll let Coordinator Mejia say a few words about this if you'd like as well.
Sure, thank you. No, just to reiterate that point that also when we do have the tech meetings to go over these and bring up suggestions and get feedback, those meetings are open and have been open to the public, and there's the dates are on our website for that very reason. So we've been able to get good input from community members as well, and also from teachers, parents, staff members, and so we feel that the list is very indicative and inclusive of that.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Appreciate the extra detail there. Trustee Path, any questions, concerns?
I do actually. As I read through this document, Brian, the thing that strikes me, this was prepared more or less at the end of last week's meeting, and actually that's not true. I mean, it's been prepared and ongoing. But at the end of last week's meeting, the thing that strikes me, if we get, and the rules just changed, boy, if there's ever a year where the only thing constant has changed, it is this year. The rules changed again between last week and this week. We are now, if the information I saw is correct, the moment we have, if the governor signs it, I think, the moment we have the opportunity to go into a red and open up, we are actually going to be compelled to go into a red and try and open up, which is different from where we were about a week ago. And what this does, it means that those plans that we just put together and AM/PM models, as much as they are, we will need to figure out our distance learning system in a manner probably differently than what we had intended and where we were going. And what I'm wondering, I don't see cameras, classroom cameras, because the way that the only way that I see it working right now, truly, with the number of people we have, is if we are live filming for distance learning. So I'm kind of wondering, and this conversation is going to be ongoing, and for all the effort not to have anybody, come into work over the vacation, I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of people going to be talking about how to get there over vacation. But I see that we might be needing, we have about 100 classrooms, maybe 125, but 100 camera systems if we're going to end up in a position where we are compelled to go back with everybody who's possible, but yet still serve the DL community. So somehow that has to come back and get tied into this.
Well, and Quite honestly, Trustee Paff, we've had conversations at both the team level and the committee level about the nature of rolling out a simulcast true hybrid manner of instructional delivery. And quite honestly, when we've talked to other districts about this very topic, and very few of them are even going down this path. And there's a number of reasons for it. For one, it puts enormous strain on the teacher, on the actual teacher of record, to essentially be able to manage technology, in-person student learning, remote distant learning as well, and all the instructional nuances that go on with doing that. So it's a tall order to ask a teacher to jump into that kind of environment. Now, that's not to say it's impossible. It's not to say that can't be achieved. It can. There will be enormous training required and supports required for that kind of scenario to essentially take hold and to come to fruition. There's no question about it. It is possible. It's just not the preferred model from an instructional delivery standpoint. You can ask, several experts who have been doing e-learning for decades. The point is that that is going to be, whether or not we have to do that, is really going to be a conversation, a broader conversation that's going to include the teachers directly in having their input on this. It has to, because they're the ones who are going to be the most impacted by that kind of instructional format. And as I say, our committee is comprised of certificated. We have 4 or 5 regular teachers sitting on that committee. And we've had conversations about this. Those are not concluded. They will continue. But, I just want you to keep in mind this, just because we have to go to hybrid doesn't necessarily mean we have to simulcast in-person, simultaneously delivered instruction in distance format.
The other thing I'd like to kind of add on to that, speaking from strictly the technical side and what it would take, we have run the numbers on this. We did look at this as an option. We had quotes a while back that we considered. We would need minimum to retrofit all classrooms about $150,000 worth of camera equipment, based on the last quotes I got. That really would only be used for, a definite amount of time. It would not be an indefinite number or an indefinite model that we would be sustaining as a district. So just wanted to throw that out there, that we're not talking about a small expense for an ongoing thing.
I appreciate both those comments. I really do. The hiccup that I see, the thing that I'm missing right now is an approach that takes into what we just saw. And Mr. Binder, I really do, I hear exactly what you said. It's in a lot of ways an untenable teacher approach. The only thing I can think that is more untenable is to do an AM PM model and then afterwards have to go DL. That's not fair in 17 different directions, and it's not right, and it's not going to work. But I guess my latest read is this is going to get here sooner, and that the rules around it are going to prevent certain changes. So yes, the conversation will continue. Certainly the teachers need to be involved in this. All of that I'm in complete agreement with. I see this as a model which actually might get you to a point where we can both actually finish out the year. You're right, it's going to be $160K for 4 months if it goes that way. What I am worried is that we get into a position, worry isn't the right word. I have concerns about the law as it's being presented right now, that we will be pushed into this much faster than we anticipate, and that this is the only way of getting there. So please do keep us informed with all of it.
Absolutely.
Okay. Trustee Carolyn?
No comments. Thank you.
Okay. All right. I have nothing further at this point. Let's open it up to public comment here too and see if we have any hands raised at this moment. Looks like we have a Lisa Thomas. Can we unmute Lisa Thomas, please?
Eve.
Good evening. This is actually her husband, Steve. And thanks very much for, just like you guys had the issue a little bit earlier, Swanson's. You know, I wanted to make a comment on this. Way back in the summer when I was sitting on one of the advisory committees for how do we approach the ongoing issue of COVID and what do things look like for the next year, this was brought up, and that was back in June. And as I see the reporting out on the tech bond, which I was a part of, and I got help to get passed, I have to wonder, is the opportunity cost of being able to provide a better educational platform for our students, what is that worth? To me, and I'm a business person and I'm a taxpayer here, that's worth $150,000 if it's for 4 months. Because I'm going to tell you this, if a third of our parents are unwilling to send their kids back in a hybrid model, that's a third of our parents and a third of our students that would benefit from live streaming and being able to participate in a live classroom setting over, you know, as a full distance learners. And there are going to be a section of our students and their parents that aren't going to be willing to come back in August for the 2021 school year, simply because there are still so many questions out there, whether they haven't received the vaccine yet, whether the you know, the proper filters are put in. There's so many unanswered questions, but this is something that should have been decided and should have been put into place months ago. And the fact that the committees are still talking about it, still making decisions, is ridiculous. You guys, as a board and as district administrators, the writing was on the wall months ago, and this should have been handled then, and it should have been in place already. And I'm surprised that we're quibbling over $150,000 when we have a tech bond to pay for things like this, and it should be done and over and implemented. And so we can take advantage of it when it comes time. And it's going to be time, as Trustee Paff said, sooner rather than later. And it also is going to come around next year as well. So I would hope that we take a look at speeding this process up, get it in place, even if it's just for a few months or longer. It's needed, and certainly it'll put the parents and give a peace of mind to those that are looking at full distance learning and not having 1 day of class face-to-face and then the rest asynchronous. Thank you.
Can I respond to that? Just I have one more thing I'd like to add. With all due respect to that previous comment, we are given explicit direction from the board to be the stewards of how to use this money in the most responsible, the most efficient and effective way that we can. The job of the committee as essentially a steering committee, an oversight committee, to do that work is bound in some ways by some of the requirements of the bond itself. We have to spend this money with the utmost responsibility and be good stewards of it. And that process doesn't just happen quickly. It needs to actually be all-inclusive. It needs to be brought to all stakeholders. It is a process. And I understand we are in unprecedented times, but quite honestly, if we pull the trigger on making $150,000, $160,000 purchase to outfit every classroom in the district with a camera that then we realize isn't actually going to be used, or in some ways won't be as effective as we thought it would be at the onset of that decision, that essentially is going to undermine, I think, what the primary tenet of the committee is the job of the committee is. And so we have not been in that position before, and under the leadership that we are currently involved with, I'm committing that we don't find ourselves in that position anytime soon, because I think what we're doing is we're making sound decisions based on data, based on the indications that we're getting from the planning process, and based on our network with other school districts. You'll be hard pressed to find other school districts that have made such a decision at this stage of the event. I'll be very honest with you. There's very few districts moving in this direction, and there's a reason for it, because it is an untested approach in an environment where so much depends on proper training and proper preparations. And that's the bottom line. And I have yet to really see anything indicating that we need to do this, and it's a guarantee that we need to do this.
Mr. Binder, Mr. President, if I can add to my comment, please.
Yeah, I want to rein us in a little bit, I guess, and define what it is that you're really looking for, Trustee Paff.
Well, I'm not actually looking for a change, but what has happened, and the reason I bring it up is up until Monday of this week, there's a new bill presented which says schools really aren't going to be given a choice in their ability to open under certain circumstances. This to me is brand new information, and it's absolutely brand new information. So where we were a week ago, where we could say reasonably, we can push and we can say, look, we're only going to have 30% attendance anyway. We can make some changes, but we will work with a DL for the rest of the year. We really, truly may not legally end up with that option right now. That was not the case a week ago. So Mr. Binder, everything he said earlier about costs and this model isn't particularly good, and potentially maybe it is, maybe it isn't. It wasn't even necessary for the debate because we weren't there. But as I understand this, and Dr. Porras can correct me, there's a passage going out from 3 state representatives that would really force this issue the moment you get out of purple.
If I may, Mr. President or Mr. Vice President,
please.
You're correct, Mr. Paff. I think there's a couple of things. Number one, this is not a bill that has passed. This is a bill that's under consideration. It doesn't differ very much from the recommendation that was approved at the last board meeting, in that as soon as we go into the county into red tier, that we would go 2 weeks after that to begin the distance learning hybrid model. And that really is not much different. The mandated part from the state is certainly a part of it, which complicates issues in regards to exactly how the state would mandate that. They would have to basically require a more stringent process for parents to go into distance learning. For example, require a doctor's note to be to remain in distance learning versus just saying they wish to be in distance learning and leave it at that. That has to be part of the bill. That is not resolved yet. I'd be hard pressed to see where the governor is going to be able to fit that in and how that's going to be operationalized. Our current plans in regards to distance learning still incorporates a staff working with those 1/3 of the students that are in distance learning as part of their assignment and task. So not a ton has changed. It is the expediency of it becomes if we move into red tier, which we've already taken into account. The issue of live streaming was discussed, and our admin team has been discussed. The landscape has changed drastically since those committees were formed back in the end of March, April, May of last school year. Pulling the trigger on moving towards cameras in the classrooms still is a loose gamble at best. Schools that have gone into live streaming with instruction have had a year's worth of training under their belt to make it even remotely work. Managing students who are in distance learning through a live stream requires that classroom teacher to essentially teach 2 different cohorts at the same time and manage them. That's not something that is just thrown in and done. And we haven't had the opportunity to create that kind of training because we've been, frankly, working on distance learning as part of what we've had to do.
Running
So
classrooms.
I think we have been having this discussion. It's been at a measured pace. Ordering these cameras just haphazardly, I think, is a bad move because we still don't have enough information to determine exactly what the protocols will be for this distance learning. And the bill's it's got a ways to go yet. It's got to walk around the park to go before they can implement what that's going to look like. I'm not prepared to leap at what the governor is going to do on this bill. I've talked with folks from the Capitol, working with AXA. No one's exactly clear how this is going to look just yet. So I think we're on a good path. I think we have time to order the cameras if we need to, looking still at an implementation date somewhere in mid-March, unless something really drastic changes, and we'll know ahead of time if that happens. Oh, I thought we're really off. Yes.
Has there been any discussion at the state level of which you are aware? I am not aware. So I defer if you have better information of actually DL next year. Mr. Thomas brought that out, and we are to a point where that is a rational question.
None of the conversation has moved into doing distance learning for next year. It's all about trying to get everyone back into school this current 2020-2021 school year. Again, parent options for distance learning into next school year 21-22 isn't even on the table. That would, again, going to require some very stringent mandates that I think the governor is not prepared to implement just yet.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mr. Binder.
I did kind of want to just add in one last thought around this, just because it was brought up by the community. It's not, our intent has never been to shortchange our students or to nickel and dime them on the cost of whatever it is they need. But the reason we've been able to cover a lot of the tech needs out of Measure A is because we have been responsible, not just recently, but throughout the years with those funds, because we don't just simply bring things on as a reaction thing, especially cost of that size. We like to weigh the ramifications of that. And I'll say in my meetings with other districts in our area, a lot of them are in very rough shape tech-wise and are not able to do a lot of the things or move as quickly as we've been able to move to cover some of the needs of our students and families in the community, because we have taken those steps. So I just wanted to throw that out there, because I did want to clear up that point, that we are not or it's not our interest to shortchange our students, but like Mr. Binder said, we have a responsibility to give sound suggestions in what the board decides to do with those funds.
Trustee Bryan,
Yes, please.
may I comment?
Yes, but absolutely.
I think this is a conversation that at first I was thinking, I wish we could have a pilot program so we're not going from 0 to 100, possibly wasting money or possibly harming our children. And we do have right now kids on campus. We have our targeted support and services going right now, as we discussed earlier, with the kids on campus, mostly kids who qualify for special education. So I'm curious how those teachers are faring. Those teachers, I believe, have some students in person and some students at home. Can we learn anything from what do we have going on right now, almost like a pilot program?
Do you have anybody that can address that, Dr. Porras?
We can certainly ask Director Davies to get on board. And I think also Principal Roach might have some comments on that as well, since he did provide a little bit of an update for the board in that regards. So I'll unmute them.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think, excuse me, one of the main differences is with our special ed classes, we have the paraprofessionals. And so, which is different from general education, particularly at the secondary level. So our teachers are able, and I'm not saying it's been easy for them. I met with them today, and the complexity of running both programs at the same time. But they are pros and they have worked it through, but it's because they have the paraprofessionals to help them. And that's probably the biggest difference. in how it would be different for general education teachers?
In regards to the small cohort at the middle school that we've had for several weeks now, those students are continuing to attend their classes virtually. They're just there with somebody to actually support them and help them navigate those classes, prioritize work, and communicate and self-advocate with their teachers. So there's not a camera in that room or anything. There's just somebody helping facilitate them. And I gave you guys a board update on that today, and it's working quite well right now.
But it's an idea. I can throw it out to the SPED teachers to see if they would like to give it a try. I mean, if that's the direction, I like the idea of a pilot.
Yeah, and or maybe we're just, I mean, I just think it's a wonderful opportunity for us to all learn in watching how the kids are coming onto campus, how long it takes for them to get their temperatures checked. You know, this is this is kind of like a little window into our future, possibly in March or possibly further out, depending what happens with Assembly Bill 10. But and Director Davies, maybe the idea of paraprofessionals, maybe we need to look into hiring some assistants in classrooms if this is something we need to move forward with. I think we have some different, you know, there's different things that are here, and I'd love to hear some brainstorming on how they can all be plugged in to make sure our kids are taken care of. And I know that's everyone's priority is to take care of the kids.
All right. We have a couple more public comments. I do want to just remind us that it's like, I think that we're a little off track. I understand where some of these conversations are going, but you know, what we've been presented with is an approval of Measure A ed tech expenditures. And if there are additional expenditures, I think it's something that we could address as needed or when we get to that. But let me ask both of my fellow trustees here, is there an issue with any particular items that are being presented right now as part of that spreadsheet of those expenditures?
Not for me, and I really appreciate Mr. Binder and Mr. Mejia walking through and actually talking through one of the things where I think Measure A has to go, which is a little bit beyond this. So I really appreciate their time on it.
Yeah, so do I. And thanks for reeling us back in, Brian. I don't have any issue with the item. I'm happy to make a motion on it. And then maybe at the end of the meeting, we can talk about perhaps this is a future agenda item where we want to kind of brainstorm, or maybe we plug it into an existing one.
There you go. There you go. Thank you. So I see we still have two remaining people who want to make public comment. I want you, we'll open it up to them. Please keep in mind what was just said as well, that we're gonna, some of these broader issues I think we'll talk about towards the end of the meeting is possibly being a future agenda item. But can we unmute Wendy? And here we go.
Thank you. I just want to echo what Steve Thomas said, and I look forward to this being an agenda item. And yes, the money should be spent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now Jennifer Braden, can we unmute Jennifer?
I'm going to echo what they said too, because I have no intention of sending my children back to school prior to it being relegated, that it will protect all of their family members that do suffer from underlying conditions. And so if we do this to make sure that our children don't just suffer from a pandemic, but that they actually abide by some standards that would actually facilitate their well-being. That's what I'm looking forward from this. And if we know that the commitment from the school board is to make sure that this will come to terms with so many other issues that will be long-term, is way more important than just suffering through this limitedly. And I do agree that, you know, that knowing that there are limitations, and I understand that, but seeking the best goals for our children means that they're seeking the best goals for us as a community, for our future, and for how we're going to make sure that we maintain our society. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to close public comment off at this moment, and I'm going to move for approval of Measure A education technology expenditures as presented.
Second.
We have a first from me and a second from Trustee Path. Mandy, can we get a roll call, please?
Trustee Path,
Aye.
Trustee Brian Swanson,
Aye.
Trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, we pass unanimously. Moving on to board calendar, future meetings. Dr. Porras, anything that we need to address here at this moment? Otherwise, we just move on, correct?
Yes, actually, Mr. Vice President, we do have one change that was made at the last meeting. That is to include the January 22nd special board meeting. And so that's been put onto the calendar. So we do need to add, do an action in order to approve that part of it.
January 22?
28th.
28, did I say 22? I'm sorry. Yes, 28.
It's okay. I said Brian instead of Brandon earlier. It's okay.
Yeah. I'm looking right at the paper too. You'd think you get it right.
All right, so I will move to approve future board calendar and future meetings with the addition of a January 28 meeting. Can we get a second from someone?
I'll second.
All right, that's a motion from me, seconded by Trustee Carolyn Swanson. Mandy, can we get a vote, please? Roll call.
Trustee Path,
Aye.
Trustee Brian Swanson,
Aye.
Trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Aye.
Thank you.
P4, terrific. Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to information discussion items. District update on response to COVID-19. Superintendent Porras.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. We actually covered a bit of this ground on the last item. So I don't have a ton more to share since we've only been a week out, other than the news still continues to not be great. And as it turns out, while Dr. Moreno here in the county looked to have jumped the gun a little bit in regards to the moving into the stay-at-home order, even though we had not yet reached that ICU bed limit, it appears that we are now actually under that threshold. And so our stay-at-home order does fit the actual mandates that came for each of the kind of the new regions. I think the reported this morning that 12.9%, there's a 12.9% ICU bed availability left in this region. So as it is, our stay-at-home order still lasts through January 11th, with the understanding that that might get extended depending on the changes in availability. I do want to also emphasize that we have sent out a notice to our families as well, just encouraging everyone to be as safe as possible during these holiday times. That part of the stay-at-home order does include a travel advisory. And while the travel advisory is only recommended that anyone traveling out of the region or the county or the state go into a 14-day self-quarantine, we can't mandate that because it's not mandated to the state. We could ultimately, as a district, require a mandate, but that is a very long process. So at this point, we're just simply matching what the county and the state has issued and asking any family who is leaving the area, traveling over the holiday, that when they return, honor a 14-day quarantine. And that may push them past the January 11 timeline, but that's just something that we've sent out to the families. And the only other piece that I have to add at this point, and it tails on to the discussion we had earlier, I just want to, how to say this exactly, just to ask for a little bit of caution and moment of pause as we start to see more bits of news coming out about what the next steps are going to be coming from the state in regards to opening and closing schools. AB 10 is a really great example of that. There's a lot in that bill as it's currently proposed. And having watched bills come and go over the years, there's a lot of negotiation that happens in there. And it's the old adage about watching the sausage being made. There's a lot going on in this conversation right now. And the major unions are still part of the conversation. and rightfully so. I think there's also parent groups that are still part of the conversations. So it hasn't landed yet, and there will be other recommendations that come along that also have not landed yet. And so we're going to do our very best to really take a hard look at what's happening. Director Martinez, who is the state vice president for legislative action for AXA, has really a finger right on the pulse, right at the state level in regards to a number of these bills. I mean, she's talking to the people that are making these decisions. So we're lucky in that regards that we'll have a little bit of ear on the ground here in Pacific Grove in regards to what's coming down. So we will do our very best to keep people informed. Our goal is to remain as transparent as possible, but at the same time also trying to make sure that the information that we're communicating is accurate and timely. And so we'll do our best to keep communicating that to you all. I think that where we stand right now with the last recommendation to the board, I think continues to be a good place. Around the county, other districts are falling around that same timeline. So as we get more and come in January, we'll be updating more and trying to get information out so that you as the board can continue to make the best decisions possible. I really do want to express that we understand the frustration that our parents are feeling. Having students at home, being teachers at home for your own students, this is not what people signed up for, and it's very, very difficult. And I think our staff, our teachers, everyone understands that. We want to provide the best services that we can. If there are students that are having some real difficulties, social, emotionally, and need help and support, please contact the principal, the site counselors. They are ready and prepared to help provide services for our students, to just help them walk through some of these difficulties. And having sat through kind of one of the sessions, boy, they're just, our counselors are remarkable. And so please, families, take advantage of that. And other than that, I just wish everyone a real safe and healthy and blessed holiday season during these really difficult times. We're here to do the very best for you, and we'll continue to do that.
Thank you for that update. Can I ask you, Dr. Porras, and you don't have to give, I'm not looking for a ton of detail, but has our situation improved at the stadium as far as there people I know you're probably doing your occasional drive-by. I do. A couple of times I saw things, things looked better than they had. I'm hoping people are listening.
You know what? They have been. I'm really appreciative to everybody trying to do their very best. We had a few little incidences, but they've been nothing extraordinary. I'm glad you brought that up because I really want to thank Principal Garcia, Vice Principal Steinbeck, and the staff at the high school who are going out of their way to open and close the gates so that people can continue to use the field. And they're going to continue to do that to the extent we can over this holiday break. There'll be a couple of days of closure here and there, so that people can just stay home and be with their families. But all in all, we're going to keep it open to the best we very can. If we have to close it, we will, and we'll make that announcement. So far, it's been pretty good. So we're pleased and happy about that.
Great, thank you very much. Trustee Path.
No, I thank you for the comments. Thank you for the update. Thank you for the field update. When I walk by at night, I don't see any lights and the gate's locked, so thank you. I guess the difference of AB 10 and some other stuff that's come down is AB 10 basically has the state making decisions for us.
Yeah.
And that's significantly different than a lot of what we've seen. So I appreciate you say, yeah, but it could be 6-7 weeks away. Okay. But it definitely has a different set of thumb screws attached to it. So
you're right. Absolutely.
All right, great. Thank you, Trustee Path. Trustee Carolyn.
Oh, thanks, Brian. I got a couple of comments. So I want to say out to our community, if you do feel sick, since this is the COVID-19 topic, if you do feel sick, I want to say there is no stigma behind that. Please know that germs are sneaky, and we know you're doing the best that you can. If you feel ill and you get tested, please do not hesitate to tell your site administrator, your teacher, and actually maybe Dr. Porras, you can tell me exactly who they should notify, because we we don't need to have, you know, them telling 400 people. I want everyone to know they can feel safe and confidential and tell just, I believe they can even just tell their teacher or just tell their principal. Which one is best, Dr. Porras?
I think if they inform their teacher, that would be wonderful. The teacher will
Okay.
let the principal know so that we can also let our district nurse know, because we're required to follow up with the families and see how they're doing. We are doing our very best to keep things confidential. I think your message is spot on. You know, we want to help support families, and I know it's difficult, but Nurse Pally is just making contact with families and doing a wonderful job with it. A lot of support there.
I agree. Yeah, I really want families to feel safe communicating that to the district. I've been on the receiving end of emails, and I will say it's extremely confidential. And it's so beneficial that we all let each other know if we're feeling ill, because it really creates a domino for the next person who might start to feel ill. If they know they've been exposed, they're going to be more vigilant, and we're going to nip this in the bud so that we don't run out of beds at our hospitals. So please just know that. Also, I heard some information about a wonderful program that is a social emotional program. It's run through the Ohana group over at CHOMP, and it's I have more information about it. Maybe I could even send it to Dr. Porras if you feel it's appropriate to include in tomorrow's, because I hear what families are saying, that their kids are struggling. If their kids are struggling, they're struggling. And I want them to think of the district as a warm place to kind of get these resources. And speaking of resources, I also was wondering if we could hear a little, maybe an update. There's kind of a wonderful resource center happening at Pacific Grove High School. And I'd love to kind of have that be shared out to families. Once again, I know we've talked about it before, but I think repetition is time.
Number one, Trustee Carolyn, by all means, please send us the information on Ohana, and we'll get that in, and I can ask Mandy to get that into the newsletter first thing for the families. Really great.
Okay.
Appreciate it. And
Yes.
I can ask Mr. Garcia if he'd like to comment briefly on the Student Resource Center.
Yes, the Student Resource Center is up and running, and we've had a few students and family members from PG High take advantage of it. We just sent out a reminder today to our families at PG High and Community High, including what our winter break hours will be. And we are also open to donations at any time. You can drop those off at our office at the A Wing.
All right, and do we have any, we do public comment on these items too, don't we, Dr.
Yes.
Torres?
Yes.
Do we have any hands up for public comment on this before we move on? I'm gonna give it one more beat, and 3, 2, 1. All right, thank you very much. We're gonna move on to information discussion. The next item, which is the PG High School Course Bulletin for the 2021-22 school year. Principal Garcia, and before you jump into an overview on this, is there a particular date or deadline that this all gets wrapped up? I mean, you're not looking for approval, you're just sharing, correct?
We're sharing this evening. I mean, if you want to improve it, that would be awesome. But we are prepared to bring it back to the next board meeting in January, which is the first meeting of January. And we do need approval at that time, because we will begin course selection just a few weeks after that.
My greatest concern was that this in the past has been an area of great interest to Trustee Dawson, but she has the information now, and as she recovers, I'm sure she can delve into it. So please go ahead.
All right, thank you. So I just wanted to bring to your attention a few things that we've done to what I feel are improve the course selection document. We'll start off with the name. We're changing the name from course bulletin to course catalog. One reason is because I just want it to be called that, but a better reason is that we want it to be in alignment with other secondary schools, colleges, and universities, and it is referred to as a course catalog. We have updated the formatting. We want the catalog to be user-friendly, and we felt the need to modernize it, which includes embedding links within the document, which will help us tremendously come January when we have our students pick their courses for the new year, because we will be conducting this process online. We have put consistent language throughout the document. As an example, in previous versions, there were various AP descriptions throughout the document. Now the AP descriptions are consistent across all departments. As I mentioned, we have created hyperlinks embedded into the document, which will allow, for easier navigation through the document. We've also embedded hyperlinks to the UC, CSU, and MPC sites, which this will allow us to ensure we have the most up-to-date information as it relates to those three colleges and universities, which will also help us in that we will not have to manually update the document from year to year. It will always be up to date. Another change that we've made is that we have removed what I've been referring to as artificial barriers. We wanted to align our standards with the accepted standard at the UCs as far as the ability of students to receive credit, if you will, for A to G requirements by earning a C or better. By doing this, we will increase the opportunities for our students who wish to challenge themselves. We're essentially empowering their ability to choose. And previous prerequisites also limited student choice, especially students who had earned a grade of B in a prior course. This also will enhance our college admission opportunities for our students. And lastly, we updated course descriptions throughout the catalog. You always want to give teachers and counselors, administrators the opportunity to ensure the description of the course is up to date and in alignment with current content and practices. And before I turn it back over to you all, I do want to thank our teachers, our counselors, Mr. Steinbach, for their work on this. I especially want to thank Margaret Rice, counselor, and Summer Coe, administrative assistant to the counselors. The two of them have been doing just hours and hours of work on this, so that we can bring to you a very clean and efficient document. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Trustee Path, any comments, questions, concerns as it stands at the moment?
Thank you very much. It's cleaner this year, and really the question that I have is there any planned class drops? I didn't see any in that, or ads. I don't see either actually listed, but I certainly didn't go back. On the other hand, keeping it fairly identical, even though we've improved accessibility via linking, etc., and renaming is appropriate. Have we made any course changes, Principal Garcia?
There are no adds or drops.
Okay.
Drops could occur in meaning that we don't have enough students sign up for
Right.
a particular course, but
right. That's
so
not a
other
drop
than,
of the
other than that, we have not removed anything from the course catalog.
Okay. So not this year, but sometime in the future, a very typical AP load in the sciences is bio, physics, and chemistry. And sometime in the future, it'd be nice to see if we could get an AP Chem on alternate years. Not this year.
Terrific. Is that it?
Yeah, thanks.
Trustee Carolyn?
Thank you. I have a comment. It may be ridiculous, but I'm not afraid to make mistakes or say ridiculous comments. So as I was reading through the catalog, the course bulletin, I was imagining I was a high school student and I was thumbing through the first page, the second page, etc. I got to the page that lists entrance requirements for college. And I just felt like if I was a student who was thinking about becoming, thinking about going into the trades, I would feel like I wasn't being spoken to. I would feel like my option wasn't really there. Like I feel like it's all about, and I realize we're public education and we love having our kids graduate and go to college, but can we give some acknowledgement to the kids who might be going into the trades kind of at the beginning of the course bulletin?
Did you have a specific
Trustee Carolyn,
selection? I'm sorry, yes, Mr. Steinbeck, please.
Yeah, of course, Trustee Carolyn, I think we could probably change a bit of language and explain to the student and parent who's reading this that to focus their attention to the CTE pathways potentially. As we know with CTE completion, we have 5 different pathways with capstones, and if the students complete these capstones, then they're eligible to go on to MPC and get an associate's degree quite easily. And in fact, some of these CTE pathways, a student would receive a certification where they're eligible to go into the workforce right away. So maybe we could potentially change some language to make that more transparent.
That would be wonderful.
Can I see if I can rephrase what you said, Carolyn?
Yeah, go ahead.
So my interpretation is if you go to page 1 and 2, you immediately see colleges. Why would page 3 not be CTE as an option? I mean, it can link back to page 38, which is where the descriptions begin, but give that basically exactly the same presence that the other 2 have.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll work on that.
That makes sense.
I like that idea too. I mean, you both John and Carolyn make really valid points. Obviously, it's like that.
It's Carolyn's point. I was just reading.
All right, well, you're right. Karen, it was Carolyn's point. It was a fabulous point, Carolyn. So maybe there's some tweaks that could be made in order to address that. So, unless there's anything else from the board, I'm looking first at a dwindling clock, and I know we need to jump into public comment, but I want to interrupt before we go into public comment because we technically need to be done at 10 unless we extend this meeting, correct? That is correct. So, and we have a couple of items that remain, and we can only extend this once. So depending upon how long we go, that's it's done when that extension is over. So fellow board members, what are you thinking as far as extending this meeting? I don't think 15
20 minutes.
will do it.
20 minutes, no later.
I mean, I would make a motion to extend it till 10:30, and if we're done in 20 minutes, great. And if we're not, then we need to finish.
Yeah, second. Also, Brian, I may have cut Trustee Carolyn off in her questions, which was not the intent, so you might have to go back there. Okay.
Okay, all right, so we've, let's jump in with this then. We have a motion to extend the meeting to 10:30 by Trustee Paff and Trustee Carolyn Swanson, second to that. Do we just, is it an all ayes or do we need to roll call this thing?
Well, Mr. Vice President, there's no action on this one. This is all just direction.
All right.
I'm sorry, you're talking for the extension of the meeting. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, forgive me. I was thinking the other one. Yes. Yeah, just ayes are fine.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and there couldn't possibly be anybody against it, so it passes. Let's continue on. We're going until 10:30. Looking for any public comment on the PG High School course bulletin. Do we have any hands raised? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. All right, thank you very much for that presentation. Moving on now to Monterey Educational Risk Management Authority. Assistant Superintendent Song Chin Bendib, maybe you could give us a thumbnail on this.
Thank you, Vice President Brian. This is just a routine thing, information, wherever we get it from MIRMA, which is a Monterey Educational Risk Management Authority, the JPA, the Joint Power Authority for all the, workers' compensation coverage. Because of ad code, when they have actual study showing about unfunded liability, because we are, one of the members, so we have to come back to show the report to our board because it involves money. So we do have to come back to our board. But the good thing about this is JPA is very solvent, as you can see, is on the next page. The assets is 48 million and change, and the total liabilities is only half of that. So is less than half of that. So the net position is almost $29 million. I wish the other JPA, with MISIC health insurance, we're working on that. Our district is also a member, but this is just for information. Any questions?
Any questions, fellow board members?
None for me, thank you.
None.
Okay, let's open it up to the public. Do we have any public comment on this item? We're going 5, 4, 3, 1, and none. So thank you very much for that, Song. Moving on to a review of legal fees, which is, I know why everybody's still here. Been waiting for this. So,
they're fascinated by our spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So by all means.
Thank you, President Brian. Vice President Brian. So this is legal fees. We do it twice a year. But for the periods on the page of the spreadsheet, starting July 1 through November 10, it depends on when we get the bills. As of this point, we spent $51,227.78. And obviously, we show the general description, the fees, just attorney fees, and the cost is just a cost associated with carrying out the specific case or cases. Mileage and copying costs, etc. And we have redacted for confidential issues, the names or specific anything that would point to or violate privacy. So it's only general information. This is information to the board and also for the public as well. We're going to do this twice a year. And with that, I'll just again open up for questions if you have any questions.
Terrific. Thank you very much. I'm going to flip it around this time. Trustee Carolyn, do you have any questions related to this?
I read the packet, of course, and I read the item, and I don't have any questions, but I am hoping that you and that Trustee Brian and Trustee Paff do have something to kind of say about it that can kind of help bring it into context for me, or maybe Dr. Porras can bring it into context, because otherwise it's just some numbers and I'm like, yeah, okay, we spent that on legal fees. But it'd be great to know kind of like did we get ourselves into a lot of legal hot water this year or not? Or, what areas, or just kind of like some sort of comments on it?
The answer is not. The answer is these are I don't know what your budget is, Song, but 100K sounds about right to get through the course of a year. Generally speaking, just, the mundane. Okay, what happened here? Should we get a legal opinion? Remember that these guys, how shall we say, are not cheap. And this is a pretty stock year. That doesn't answer your question fully, sorry.
We've had far more expensive years. I don't know the exact numbers. I wouldn't maybe mind, and not, and I don't need to see it now, but maybe when we look at these in the future. And I know we've actually seen this before, comparative year to year. It's like we're up, we're down, and I think we see that though, Song, don't we? Actually, we'll see that when we review the budgets over the years too, right? So we do see those. We're just not seeing that at this moment, correct?
That's correct. This is only, it's only shown the moment, this fiscal year.
Right.
And like you said, it goes, depends on the cases, right? I mean, some years could be 50% more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've had years where we've exceeded $200,000 when I first started in the district. I mean, it's I think Trustee Carolyn, it's legal fees are always an interesting one. You ask a really great question. Through the course of regular business, legal counsel's involved in a lot of what we do, reviewing contracts, reviewing letters that go to parents, employee actions or employee support. God, you name it. We sometimes will call them briefly for when we get a question for the public about addressing a particular matter that has legal implications, we'll give them a call. Those are not sizable bills. The bigger ones are usually when we have some kind of legal intervention matter that comes into play. Negotiations involved, and that's probably the one that takes the bigger bill. But frankly, I think their help with negotiations benefits everybody because they try to stay pretty neutral when providing information that we need. So that's a good thing too. It's just we could sit down sometime if you like, and I can kind of walk you through some of the other cases. You're asking a really common question.
Yeah, thanks. That's all I had.
Yeah, there, and what in relation to what Trustee Pafford said, yeah, I know they're not necessarily cheap, but I know people who've used cheap lawyers in the past, and cheap lawyers are extremely expensive. You just don't know about it yet. Yeah. You find out a year or 2 or 10 years down the line just how expensive that cheap lawyer was. So it's money really well spent. Do we have any public comment? I'm assuming the board members have said what they need to say about this. Public comment. Going once, going twice, going a third time. All right, so moving on to future agenda items.
You ready, Brian?
That's why this is the real reason why we're all here still, right? So
yeah. So we have items. Ralph, do you need to introduce any of these?
No, I don't think so. Go ahead.
Yeah. We have an item for streaming all board meetings. I'd like to put a date on that, sometime in March. And then at that meeting, we'll end up having to decide what that means, or at least before it, perhaps coming to some gentle discussion as to what streaming means. Right now, we're doing a fully interactive. This could be there. We have demonstrated beyond a shadow of a doubt we can do it, though.
If I may, just Trustee Walton, I think had brought this item up as well at one point. Just for reference point, I think he had commented once we kind of get out of the pressure that we're in right now to take kind of a review of what that would look like for future meetings. I think.
March too soon then?
I think March is a little too soon, just because I don't think we're going to really have a good go at it. But
put a date on it. Let's put a date.
I would say the end of April would probably be okay. That would give it, because I think then we have some reasonable options to look at.
Okay, I'm okay with that. I just don't want to leave it until we're done and back in session. And as we saw, there was a number of requests to put 6154 back on as a board review, which I'm certainly amenable to. But again, I think that that really requires a stakeholder meeting, particularly at the high school. So any suggestions for changes should come from that sort of meeting.
I'm not opposed to that either. I think that's a good idea, and the whole approach about how we come to it too. So I think the timing of when we have that discussion about 6154 is all predicated upon what happens with that meeting at the high school, correct?
Yes, I think I can talk with the administrative team. I just as a warning, January, first 3 weeks of January, it's going to be real rough. We got a lot going on, is just along with the schedule and everything else going. So we will expedite this certainly to try to get some common ground. As you heard, I think Principal Roach is in the same place as well. That as a site protocol, they've already instructed their staff not to assign homework during that time. So perhaps that alleviates the urgency a little bit, and then, but we'll expedite it. I just want to just kind of reiterate, January is going to be a really tough month, but we'll do the best we can.
Thank you. I mean, it's, we need to be better informed. At least I do, as to what's happening everywhere anyway in relation to homework before I'm ready to jump into it and see what everybody's doing. So, okay. Great. What else did we have on here? Is there anything that we really want to put a pin in?
Dr. Porras, do you know anything about, no, Mr. Walton's been our representative, so let's wait for that. Never mind.
Yeah.
There was one I've been looking at the last few times too, though. I don't know who requested a presentation on diversify our narrative, and that individual who I think had emailed us about it initially, I haven't heard anything further from. I thought it was interesting. I don't know what a presentation would look like on that item. Dr. Porras, do you know anything about that person there?
Trustee Walton was involved with that as well, and I know that he had mentioned he had said that there's no great pressure to move on that, and that he'd give us some more information. So perhaps at the next meeting we can ask him if he would.
You sure that was Trustee Walton? I thought that was Trustee Dawson, Ralph.
I think it was Trustee Walton, but
I stand corrected. So, but okay.
Okay, so we can wait. On that then. I don't, and as I'm looking over this, I don't have any others. Trustee Carolyn?
I think the distance learning one, the member of the public who requested the district review, how to improve distance learning for students and families. I would say that one should be a priority. I know we've got this elementary distance learning survey that's out right now. So I know there's going to require a little bit of time, but I think the community and I think everyone would appreciate kind of a brainstorming session on really kind of digging into distance learning, how we can improve it. And also, sorry, we had a parent tonight mention that social emotional help included in distance learning. And I think that that's a relevant point that we should add to kind of the, it's kind of becoming lengthy, that agenda item, but just a real look at the entire distance learning, all the facets. And I think we should do a really good reach out to the community, making sure that they know that we're talking about that item at the board that night, so we can, or perhaps stakeholder meetings at site level or whatever. But I think it's due, and I think it's it should be the priority right now.
Okay, Dr. Porras?
We could certainly add the social emotional support as a bullet under that item. Part of the review will certainly get a little more revealed once we get the surveys back and start taking a quick look at what that's going to play out like. And we can talk as an admin team how we can, again, try to expedite that conversation. I think it's going to be had anyway, and then bring it to the board for a kind of a good public discussion. I would guess probably closer to the sort of the latter half of January, just because our surveys don't come back until I think somewhere around the 8th or 9th of January, somewhere around then.
All
So
right.
that would be helpful. And the grades and enrollment levels that are part of that item, as well as the one below it. I know Trustee Dawson had asked about the grades. We'll have a better review of those grades after the semester ends, and we can pull that information together. So perhaps all of that around the end of January timeframe is doable. If you give us a chance, just when we review after the break with the admin team, we can get a better timeline for you.
Okay, terrific. And I forget, is there a public comment at this point, or?
Yes.
I should always assume there's public comment. So is there any public comment on future agenda items? Looking for hands raised. I'm not seeing anything before we adjourn, because I think we're just a breath away from that happening.
I have one more thing.
Oh, yes, please.
When we add future agenda items, can we add the date that they're put on there? It would help guide me in kind of realizing how old, how moldy they're getting, how we need to kind of plug them in.
I like that idea.
We certainly can do that. We can do our best to try to look back at the ones that are there, but certainly moving forward.
It's okay. Just do it moving forward. You guys have a lot. I'm all about moving forward. We'll do it from now on if that's agreeable to the other trustees.
Is to me.
Yeah, I think that's doable for sure.
John?
Well, I have a different view of that. You do have one public comment. My view is you shouldn't let them fester anyway, so.
Well, yeah, I think the dates will help us. It will help everybody.
Let's go to public comment.
Can we unmute Jennifer Braden, please?
Yes, sir.
Hi, thank you. I think my only concern is that for my 8th grader moving into the high school level with Principal Garcia, what he was mentioning was that the links that he was talking about, the catalog thread, that they were also going to be commensurate with the Google Classroom and that schedule, and how they were going to align. Because with distance learning, how my 8th grader, soon to be a freshman, will contend with that breakthrough and going from one side to the other with distance learning still being enacted. Like, how is he going to manage getting on board with their system, and is it conducive with the current system, and what we are going to do to make sure that that's part of the process for our children going from one level to the other.
Not entirely sure.
May I rephrase that?
Yeah,
Ms. Brand, am I correct in understanding that you have concerns about your 8th grader moving up to the high school, which is a different school, and how does he interact and get in the right classes using both a new platform and a new building, essentially?
I may need to unmute her again. Hang on a second.
Yeah, she's muted again.
Yes, absolutely. I think that that's what I'm absolutely what I'm looking for, is that just the understanding of how that is going to go seamlessly without affecting them as the students, and how they're going to make sure that that pathway is led for them.
Okay, so my suggestion here, and Dr. Porras, you may throw me away, of course, but is that Mr. Roach and or Mr. Garcia address that in a regular, in a manner that's appropriate and something that they're regularly putting out anyway. They're going to continue to talk about hybrid and DL, and that should be in part of that, but it should be included. It's a very, salient point.
Yeah, I absolutely. I think that it's like that transitioning is part of the conversations that we do have, and what I think I understand what Ms. Braden's explaining. So we'll try to make sure they incorporate that in the conversations that they're having, and then get that out to the public as well.
And if at some point in the future it's not been fully discussed, then we would maybe have to really agendize it. But I think it'll be okay just putting it on their docket. So thanks.
Okay, I don't see any other public comment. My fellow board members, do we have anything else at this moment? Finishing
Good.
deadline.
Thank you all. Brian, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes.
Before I
Helen,
can
congratulations.
I'm going to gavel us out here too. I just want to say, because this is our last board meeting of the year, so because it's public comment, I won't really say what I want to say about 2020. You know what I'm thinking. Here's to a better 2021. Everybody,
Amen, brother.
please have a wonderful holiday. Take care of yourself, take care of others, and have a happy new year.